9 bullets didn't finish him, so now they're trying something darker, quieter, and maybe even more dangerous. Because what happens when the man who survived death decides to expose everyone who wanted him dead? Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent, isn't just trending again. He's circling the center of something that feels way too familiar, too patterned, too intentional. Because every time he opens his mouth, every time he drops something explosive, something follows. Not coincidence, not random, a pattern, and patterns don't lie. Let's rewind, because this isn't new. It never was. Back in 2000, before the fame, before the empire, before the suits and streaming deals, there was just a man stepping out of his grandmother's house in Queens. Noon, daylight, ordinary, too ordinary. He gets into a car, another car pulls up, and suddenly the world changes forever. Shots fired, not one, not two, 9. 9 bullets ripping through a body that, by all logic, should have stopped breathing right there. But it didn't. And that's where things get strange, because surviving wasn't just survival. It became power. It became identity. It became a warning. Because here's the part people whisper about but don't fully say out loud. Those bullets weren't random. They were a message, a reaction, a response to something he said, something he exposed. A song, just a song. Or was it? Ghetto Quran, not just lyrics. Names, real operations, real secrets being dragged into the light. And suddenly, powerful people didn't like that light anymore. So what happened? They came for him. Federal documents didn't suggest. They didn't speculate. They described an actual ongoing plot. Messages, tracking movements, coordinated efforts. Not a moment of rage, a sustained mission to erase him. And still, he lived. Now pause. Because this is where the pattern begins. He speaks, they react. He survives, he gets louder. Again, and again, and again. And what most people missed is that he didn't just survive physically, he transformed that survival into a weapon. Every scar turned into a story, every threat turned into fuel, every attempt to silence him turned into amplification. But here's where things take a darker turn, because back then, he was exposing street-level power, drug empires, local kings. Dangerous, yes, but contained. Now he's aiming at something much bigger. Fast forward to today, and 50 Cent isn't just rapping anymore. He's documenting, investigating, digging, and not quietly either. Loud, public, strategic. And suddenly the same pattern starts creeping back in. He announces a documentary. People laugh. He's trolling. It's just social media antics. He's not serious, but behind the scenes, months of work, quiet conversations, people stepping forward, files being collected, footage being secured, footage that was never meant to be seen. And then, boom, the documentary drops like a grenade. Not just gossip, not just rumors, structured, layered, backed, voices speaking out, stories aligning, and millions of people watching. Millions. Let that sink in. Because this isn't just exposure anymore. This is amplification at a level the industry has never really seen before. And the target this time? Not street figures, not underground players, power players, billion-dollar names, legacy builders, untouchables, or at least they thought they were untouchable. And here's where the tension thickens, because the reaction wasn't silence, it was immediate. Legal letters, public statements, words like vendetta being thrown around, accusations of betrayal, claims of manipulation, claims that this wasn't storytelling, it was revenge. But if it was just revenge, why did it hit so hard? Why did it shake things the way it did? Why did it feel like something that wasn't supposed to surface suddenly did? And then comes the detail that nobody can ignore. 140 hours, unreleased, unseen, untouched by networks, untouched by filters, just sitting there, waiting. And that changes everything. Because now the question isn't what he's already shown, it's what he hasn't. What's in those hours? Who's in those hours? What conversations, what moments, what truths are sitting in files that haven't even been opened publicly yet? And more importantly, who knows what's in them? Because if the first release caused shockwaves, what happens if everything else comes out? No gatekeepers, no edits, no control, just raw exposure. And this is where the atmosphere starts to feel different. He's no longer just responding to controversy. He's creating it. He's stepping into spaces people don't step into, saying things people don't say, and most dangerously, connecting dots people don't want connected. So now ask yourself something. If naming street figures once led to 9 bullets, what happens when you start naming giants? What happens when the people being exposed aren't just dangerous but powerful enough to move quietly? Because silence can be louder than noise. And lately, there's been a lot of strange silence. Until suddenly, it breaks in ways no one expects. Rumors start spreading, stories start circulating, and then something happens that feels small on the surface, but hits differently when you look closer. A death, or at least the story of one. And for a moment, the internet believes it. But was it just a hoax, or was it something else entirely? Because with this kind of history, nothing feels random anymore. And this is where the story stops feeling like entertainment and starts feeling like a slow-moving warning that nobody wants to say out loud. Because once that death rumor hit, it didn't just spread, it exploded. Millions of people reacting, reposting, believing. For a brief moment, the world paused and asked the same question: is he gone? And then just as quickly, it was denied. False. Fake. Another internet hoax. But here's the thing that doesn't sit right. Why him again? Out of every celebrity, out of every name in the industry, why does the narrative keep circling back to 50 Cent? Why does his story constantly brush up against death, real, rumored, or implied? Because patterns don't just repeat for no reason. They repeat because something underneath them hasn't changed. And what hasn't changed is what he's doing. He's still talking, still digging, still pushing into territory that makes powerful people uncomfortable. And now, it's no longer just about one person, one documentary, or one feud. It's bigger, wider, more dangerous. Because just when people thought the storm would calm after that first documentary, he did something unexpected. He didn't stop. He pivoted. He looked at something even more explosive: the sudden release of massive federal documents tied to one of the darkest networks in modern history. Files filled with names, claims, whispers, and allegations that most people would hesitate to even mention publicly. And what did he do? He leaned in. Almost immediately, he starts hinting, suggesting, teasing the idea of another documentary, another project, another deep dive, this time pulling threads from documents that weren't even fully understood yet. And suddenly, another name gets dragged into the conversation. Not confirmed, not proven, just mentioned, buried inside an unverified tip within millions of pages. But that's all it takes now, because once a name enters the narrative, it doesn't leave quietly. And 50 Cent knows that. That's what makes this so unsettling. It's not reckless, it's calculated. He understands exactly how attention works, exactly how narratives form, exactly how a single mention can become a full-blown storm. So when he says, "I might do a documentary on this," it's not just a statement, it's a trigger. Because now, anyone whose name even appears in those documents, verified or not, becomes part of a story that millions will watch, analyze, and debate. And that kind of power, that kind of influence, it doesn't go unanswered. Because now we're no longer talking about past enemies, we're talking about current ones, active ones, watching, reacting, calculating. And this is where things escalate again. Because it's not just one project anymore, not just one target. There are hints of more documentaries, more names, more stories, more exposure, a growing list of people who might find themselves under that same lens, whether they like it or not. And suddenly, it feels like he's not just poking one bear, he's poking the entire forest. And forests don't stay quiet forever. Now think about this carefully, because this is where the tension tightens. Every time in the past that he exposed something, there was a reaction. In 2000, it was bullets. In the years after, it was blacklisting, pressure, industry resistance. Recently, it's been legal threats, cease and desist letters, public statements labeling him as an enemy, as someone with a vendetta. But now the battlefield feels different, because the stakes are higher, the people involved are bigger, the systems are more complex, and the responses might not always be loud or obvious. Sometimes they're quiet, sometimes they're subtle, sometimes they come in forms that don't look like attacks at all. A rumor, a narrative shift, a sudden wave of negativity, a legal case that appears out of nowhere, a story planted just convincingly enough to stick, or even something as simple as a death hoax that spreads just a little too fast. Because not every attack needs a weapon. Sometimes all it needs is a story. And right now, 50 Cent is both the storyteller and the target. That's the paradox. narratives. He's built an empire on exposing narratives while becoming one himself. And the deeper he goes, the more dangerous that becomes. Because now, there's something else hanging in the air. Those 140 hours. Still sitting there. Still untouched. Still capable of shifting everything all over again. And he's already said it. He might release them. No filters, no edits, no corporate control, just raw footage hitting the public directly. And if that happens, what then? Who gets exposed next? What conversations come out? What moments were never supposed to be seen? And most importantly, who is already trying to stop that from happening? Because let's be honest, something like that doesn't just sit quietly without pressure building around it. There are conversations happening behind closed doors. There are people watching closely. There are decisions being made that the public will never fully see. And right in the middle of all of that is a man who has made a career out of not backing down. That's what makes this situation feel different. He's not slowing down. If anything, he's accelerating. New projects, new deals, new series, expanding into true crime, into deeper investigations, into stories that connect the streets to the highest levels of power. It's not just content anymore. It's a machine that keeps uncovering, keeps exposing, keeps pushing. And machines like that attract attention, not just from fans, from people who have something to lose. So now we circle back to the question that's been hanging over everything from the beginning. Is this just another wave of controversy? Or is this the early stage of something bigger, something more serious, something that hasn't fully revealed itself yet? Because history already gave us the blueprint. He exposes, they react, he survives. But every cycle gets more intense, more public, more dangerous. And right now, we're in the middle of the next cycle. The rumors are spreading, the projects are stacking, the names are getting bigger, the tension is rising. And somewhere in the background, those files still exist, unreleased, unanswered, waiting. So maybe the real story isn't what's already happened. Maybe the real story is what hasn't dropped yet. Because if everything so far has caused this much chaos, then whatever comes next might change everything.